Good evening. This is the regular city council meeting for the Rockport City Council, April 11th, 2023. It is 6:30 p.m. I want to call this meeting to order. I'll ask that you rise with us and join Councilperson Brad Brundrett with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Got a couple of fun things to do right quick. One of them is near and dear to my heart and has been for years and years. This first one is a proclamation related to Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. And we've got some of those folks here smiling at me back there. I'll read this and I want them to come up and we'll get pictures taken and I'll get to thank you personally. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, and emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property, and whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Public Safety Communications Center, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact of citizens having with the emergency services, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers and firefighters by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information and ensuring their safety, and whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Public Safety Communications Center have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, treatment of patients, and whereas each telecommunicator has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now, therefore, I, Tim J. Rowe, Mayor of the City of Rockport, do recognize the week of April the 9th through the 25th as Public Safety Communicators Week in Rockport, Texas, in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. If y'all would come up, I'd like to present this to you. You can take it with you.
Mayor, if I may, I just comment. I love communicators. It was my first job in public safety. I joined the sheriff's office in 2001, and how I got to know you. And I've known Lee most of that time. So it's a hard job. It's the hardest job I think I've ever had, to be honest. And just thank you for all you do. And just it's great to see the center growing the way that it has and the level of professionalism that you offer. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you. Next item, the joint proclamation celebrating the Week of Young Children. This is a joint proclamation whereas the Children's Coalition of Aransas County and local early childhood educators, in conjunction with the National Association of the Education of Young Children, are celebrating the Week of the Young Children, April 9th through April 15th, and whereas these organizations are working to improve early learning opportunities that can provide a foundation of learning for children in the city of Rockport, Aransas County, the town of Fulton, Texas. And whereas teachers and others who make a difference in the lives of young children in the city of Rockport, Aransas County, and the town of Fulton deserve thanks and recognition. And whereas public policies that support early learning for all children are crucial to young children's future. Now therefore, we, Tim J. Rowe, Mayor of the city of Rockport, Ray A. Garza, Aransas County Judge, and Kelly Cole, Mayor of the town of Fulton, do hereby proclaim April the 9th through the 15th as Week of the Young Children in the city of Rockport, Aransas County, and the town of Fulton, and encourage all citizens to work to make a good investment in early childhood in Aransas County. In witness whereof we hereby affix our signatures and this seal the 11th day of April 2023. Do we have anybody from the Young Children's Coalition here? Don't see them. I will get that to them. Next on the agenda is citizens to be heard. Before we do that, we're going to note the presence of a quorum by roll call. Ward 1.
Here.
Ward 2.
Here.
Ward 3.
Here.
Ward 4.
Here.
Mayor here. Citizens to be heard. At this time, comments limited to 3 minutes will be taken from the audience from persons who have signed the speaker's card located at the table in the back of the training room of the service center and delivered to the city secretary before the meeting begins, or written comments received by 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting on any agenda item or any subject matter. It will be read and summarized in the minutes of the meeting. Persons wishing to address the council and who have registered using the citizen participation form will have up to 3 minutes to speak. In accordance with the Open Meetings Act, council may not discuss or take action on any item that's not been posted on the agenda. While civil public criticism is not prohibited, disorderly conduct or disturbance of the peace, as prohibited by law, shall be cause for the chair to terminate the offender's time to speak. If you filled out a card on one of the public meeting items, we will get to that shortly. I have one citizen to be heard, and it's Jennifer Day. If you would give us your name and address, and you got 3 minutes.
Jennifer Day, 902 East Cornwall, Rockport, Texas. It's very important to recognize the efforts that have gone into the beautification on Austin Street with the pots, the flowers. It really has spruced up our community, our district, and I want to say thank you to the city of Rockport for taking that on and for maintaining it. Definitely added a lot to our main street, and we look to see it continue. Thank you.
By the city council will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member will so request, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Does anyone wish to remove an item from the consent agenda?
Excuse me, Mayor, I think I failed to put that resolution in front of y'all.
Okay.
But I emailed y'all all today, but I did say I was gonna put it in front of you.
This is the resolution that goes in conjunction with item 12.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or debate? If not, I'll call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Consent agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing. We have 3 items that we will be considering in this public hearing, and the public will have opportunity to discuss these items as we come to them. It is 6:39, and we are conducting public hearing as of now. Item number 13, conduct a public hearing to consider a request to rezone property located at 102 St. Francis Circle, also known as Lot 2, Block 1, Damasco Subdivision, 3.445 acres, City of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, to B1 General Business District to allow the use of monitored outdoor parking currently zoned R1, First Single Family Dwelling District. I have 4 folks that want to discuss this one, and we'll call in the order the cards were filled out. I have Brian Phillips and Tammy Damasco. And if you will come up and give your name and address, and you got 3 minutes each.
This is Tammy Damasco, my better half. We're the owners of 325 Griffith Drive, directly across the street from the property. And we are the property owners of 102 St. Francis Circle. So we've been trying to buy that lot for about 12 years. It's been off and on the market for 12 years. We made several runs at it. At one point, there was an advertisement in the paper said to be a great location for an RV park, and that made me really nervous living directly across the street. So we eventually wanted to get it, so we acquired it, and now we want to do something just to offset the taxes. We can't afford just to make it into a park. So we've got to do something, and like I said, we live 50 feet across the street from it. And we just want to get it rezoned. It used to be zoned commercial or residential, and somehow, I guess when the city annexed it, they made it all residential, which I quite don't understand that. I don't know how that happens, but, and it's also got highway frontage. So, you know, nobody's gonna build a house on the highway. It's a very busy highway. It's getting busier by the day. And so, let's see here. Yeah, we all live 1 or 2 blocks from the highway. All the neighbors around there that are concerned or for it or against it or whatever. So I don't know what they thought was gonna go there, you know, because, you know, we're spitting distance. We can hear the traffic going by, you know, and it's getting busier and busier and busier every day. And so we understand that that land is eventually slated for commercial, eventually. So as landowners, we can kind of control what goes there. We don't want something ugly goes there. We want something that's eye appealing and, like I said, to help offset the taxes for us. So that's really all I got to say. You have anything to say?
Well, I just wanted to just make a point that we're not going to take down any trees. We're going to leave all native plants there. We're going to privacy fence it. We definitely want to make it look very nice. And there's 2 oak trees that I believe are over 100 years old. We do not want to take down 100-year-old oak trees. We've got no desire. Whatever we do, we're working around the trees. Yeah, and the facts are that you cannot put, there cannot be a RV park put in there. That is a fact based on the size of the property. So that will not happen. That's not what we're aiming to do. And I figure as landowners, we can kind of control what goes there. If I can't afford to keep it and I eventually sell it, somebody with a lot more money than I could build God knows what there, you know, a 7-Eleven or what, and we just don't want that. We want something very nice. So, and we plan on putting a large privacy fence to protect the neighbor's view, whatever we got to do to make. Well, our doors are open. People have anything to say, they can come knock on my door anytime. We've been working with all the neighbors, except for 2 that I don't know. Everybody else around it touches the property or don't have it. They all know me very well. They understand that we're going to do something that's nice. So,
We appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, next person, Donnie Cruz.
Howdy, my name is Donnie Cruz. I'm owner of Certified Auto Repair, right in front of the property that was just being discussed. Myself have been zoned residential now. I've been there for 23 years, have contributed a lot to this community. And so I'm kind of flabbergasted at how this could take place too. And I'm not opposed to letting them do whatever they want with that property because like they said at one time, I looked at it, it was zoned commercial. And so I think we just need to fix what has been disturbed. That's all. Thank you.
My name is John Lucas. I live at 344 Griffith Drive, which is directly across the street from the area being petitioned to be rezoned. I do have some concerns as a citizen of Rockport and as a landowner in that area with development of covered parking, uncovered parking, or zoned parking, or anything of that nature, and what it invites to our neighborhood. I understand that we do have a business on the corner, and all of us that, bought our homes in that area in the last, 10 years have known that Donnie's there and have no issue with that. My issue is developing the land across the street from my house and parking whatever it is that we're going to park there. It's not going to be something you reside in. It's going to be boats, RVs, whatever it's going to be that we're going to park in that area. It invites something to that area that I'm not really welcoming. Valuable property parked unattended on a lot across the street from my house brings in people that are looking for things to steal, in my opinion. I don't know if we plan on lighting this area, but if we're going to light this area to keep the people from coming over and stealing it, now I've got parking lot lights across the street from my house, that my house faces Griffith Drive. I know he said he talked about putting a privacy fence up down San Francis Circle, but I think the initial conversation before was only a chain link fence down Griffith, which now I'm looking across the street of my house, my yard, at a big parking lot full of whatever it is that people are going to pay to park there. I'm just not interested in having that in the peripheral view of my living room or anything else around my house. I don't know what that's going to do to the value of my home. I'm concerned. I own a little over an acre of land over there, and the property values have gone up quite a bit in this area, and now we're going to put something across the street. It's just not something I want across the street from my house. He talks about, someone else buying it and building a 7-Eleven. Well, if we don't zone it business, how are we going to build a 7-Eleven there? It's a nice piece of property, and it doesn't have any homes on it. I know there was a piece of property next to it that was sold off, and someone did build a residential type facility there. There again, it's just a matter of what it's going to do to my value of my home and what appeal it's going to bring to our neighborhood, because it is something that we are going to be forced to look at daily. And so that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. James Riley.
First of all, let me say thank you for letting us speak for our community. But we live at 340 Griffith, right across the street. Also, directly across from 102 St. Francis. And the area that we're talking about is the chain link fence side that he proposed at the rezoning board. First, let me say, I don't want to see a chain link fence with any kind of wire or anything of that nature that's going to present the appearance of being a secluded or locked down area. We prefer to have something that's going to be nice and neat. He says he would put the privacy fence up. Okay, that's fine, but it still doesn't alleviate what's on the other side of that fence, which is going to be valuable property. With valuable property, we all know that it's going to entice people who have less things in mind of being a good citizen to want to come to our community and potentially pilfer or steal from the community. But it also brings a lighting pollution issue for us also. I bought this house in 2016. When I bought it, the property was actually residential. I actually tried to purchase that and put a bid in on that piece of property. And of course, me and the owner couldn't come to a conclusion of a good value of the property. It was not zoned commercial when I attempted to buy it. If it had been and we could have come to, I would have built a home and put it on that property. So the idea that it's never going to be anything other than residential is kind of crazy to me. But another thing is, I'm a retired military guy. I come to Rockport 10 years ago. I found this place to be a very beautiful, most enticing, very welcoming community. And me and my wife and family, we said, we're going to put roots here. I lived in Alabama for over 30 years, and that is my home of residence up until I arrived here. And I found this community to be my new community and my home. So having purchased that property, I look forward to my kids, my grandchildren, being able to use my property as theirs in the future, but for future endeavors in my soon-to-be retirement in a couple years. and I don't want them to be looking at that across the street. You know, the properties we have in that area, they have so many beautiful trees. The properties are large. Everybody is really, really quiet. We're not going to have people across the street at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to load up a trailer with an old car or an old RV or a trailer of some sort. It's just a parking area that we're talking about putting in there. It's not something visual that we want to see. It's just not, I don't even think it would be conducive to business there anyway, because we're going to create a situation on the main road, which is Business 35 or Highway 35. We have to enter and exit that road. We've already had major accidents right there at that same intersection. We've actually had cars flip over, and I've seen 3 in the last couple of years. That I don't know if they were actual fatalities, but I know that the individuals were gravely hurt. So that's where we stand on it. We oppose it. We really ask that you guys take a real consideration for our opposition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Next item is item number 14. Conduct a public hearing to consider a request to rezone property located at 1806 Highway 35 North, also known as the Villa Del Palmas, Unit A, B, C, and D, City of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, to R6 Hotel Motel District to allow the use of short-term rentals currently zoned R5 Second Multifamily Dwelling District. Have anyone here wants to speak on that item? Yes, sir. Come right ahead.
My name is Caleb Long. I live at 2150 Double File Trace in Liberty Hill, Texas. I am the owner and developer of the property that we're talking about at 1806 35 North in Rockport. Last meeting, one of the concerns was the increase in property value not being affordable for the surrounding residents. And a point I wanted to make was that, you know, whether I develop this property or not, you know, I feel like Rockport has been a up and coming destination for, you know, vacation destination, and the increase in property value I feel like is inevitable and is not directly related to the renovation of the existing apartments. Another concern was the through traffic through the neighborhood. I sat in the parking lot and put in different destinations in Rockport, Rockport Marine, Rockport Beach, restaurants in Fulton, and none of the Google Maps routes, you know, take you through that neighborhood. So I don't feel like that through traffic through that neighborhood directly behind the apartment complex is going to be an issue. There are what I thought were existing entrances and exits on the east side of the property that we wanted to incorporate in our new parking plan. I was told that they were not used. They haven't always been used as entries and exits, which I'm not sure if that's true. I don't know if there's somebody that can confirm that, but there's old asphalt on the entries. The old survey, when I purchased the property, the survey that was provided to me showed the entrances and exits on the property. When I had the survey updated, you know, it was the same way. But, you know, I don't want to inconvenience the neighbors. I do care about, you know, how they feel about the renovation and what the property is going to be used for. I don't want to make them uncomfortable. So, you know, I'm not sure if we're necessarily going to need those exits for, you know, the residents or the people that are renting out the property, but I'm open to, you know, using them strictly
Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Anyone else want to speak on this particular item, number 14? If not, we'll go to item number 15. Conduct a public hearing regarding the potential sale of the natural gas system and opportunity for citizen input.
Mayor, Mr. Pena's here, and prepared to give any presentation you'd like. So Jude.
We would be happy to have it.
For the record, my name is Simon Pena. I'm the principal consultant for Simon R. Pena, SRP and Associates, LLC. I'm a pipeline safety compliance consultant. I also assist communities when they are looking at possibly divesting their gas utility. I've had some experience with other municipalities that have gone to the voters. So let me give you, council, a little background on why we would like to seek voter approval to allow the council to potentially look at the sale of the gas utility. A little background is that the city of Rockport actually purchased the current gas utility back in 2008 from Aransas Natural Gas. Currently, going forward, the discovery of the operations of the utility is approximately 43% or around 76 miles of our entire distribution system, which is about 184 miles, is of our gas lines is either bare steel or coated steel to some degree. And we do have some plastic that is of substandard material, not the current polyethylene type of material, which under current regulatory requirements by the state of Texas, we're all regulated by the Pipeline Hazardous Safety Administration, PHMSA, which is under DOT, and in Texas, we're under the authority of the Texas Railroad Commission, Office of Pipeline Safety. And actually, that's where I started my career as a pipeline safety inspector. The state of Texas enacted some rules that required mandatory replacement of gas distribution in high-risk areas or substandard material through some type of risk modeling. So we have to meet that replacement regulatory compliance requirement for the public safety. And of course, that's going to be costly. That's going to be expensive going forward for the city and the citizens of Rockport, especially if we've got over 76 miles that we've got to replace. So over the past 5 years, to recap, revenues for the gas systems unfortunately have struggled to maintain, to stay positive in the black because of continuing increase of operation and maintenance and replacement of our distribution system, primarily repairing, maintaining, making sure leakage is down to a minimum and repaired. All of that is costly, and it's only going to get more expensive. Then there's been a marked increase in just the sheer regulatory requirements that, you know, all gas systems have to comply, both at the federal and at the state level. So I don't see that going away at all. In fact, I think it's going to be intensifying. And the enforcement is going to be a lot more aggressive, I think, in the future. Municipals, in my experience, unfortunately, have always struggled to try to maintain rates and try to get, you know, the operating costs under control, but it's difficult. And so I see a lot of gas systems, unfortunately, losing customers versus gaining, especially the smaller gas, municipal-owned gas systems. So therefore, the regulatory burden reaches even further in maintaining, of course, a qualified staff. Under federal regulations, employees that work for us in the gas system have to be qualified under federal regulations. So it's very specific, skilled type labor, and that's difficult. to have out there. Luckily, right now, we've got some pretty good skilled labor, but in the future, it's going to be even more difficult to maintain that. Obviously, larger gas companies, folks that are around our neighbors that are much larger in scale, Centerpoint Energy, West Texas Gas, Texas Gas Services out of Austin. Those are much larger gas companies, well-established, real sources, and they can absorb a lot of this O&M cost much better than we can as a small operator of the gas system. So, but the sheer magnitude of their, numbers helps them. They can distribute their cost across thousands of customers versus just 4,000 or so of our customers. And so the economy of scale for the larger operators can direct and share the equipment, the staff, and supplies to their various operations in the cities that they operate throughout Texas in particular. So a sale of the city's gas system may allow for redirections of the funds from the proceeds to other projects, to other departments, however the city council decides, and therefore the burden is not on the city to have to maintain all these regulatory requirements. So really the choice is the community. They want to allow for the vote to give you the option to solicit bids to sell the gas system. Of course, if the city council can decide whether they accept those bids or not, or whether they continue to operate it. But this at least allows you to consider it. And so a vote against it is that you're just going to have to go and look at increasing cost, increasing rates, because you have to fund these safety requirements and replacement programs. There's just no way out of that. So that's where we're at. So I'd be glad to answer any questions that the council, the citizens may have.
In your experience, if the sale were to go through,
yes, sir.
Do you normally see, or would you consider a rate increase to be the norm, going from a public to a private entity? But what is the history there, I guess, maybe?
So really, it's up to the city council to make that a stipulation if they want to continue an existing rate. There might be some additional rates or costs that a investor-owned utility, simply that because they have to be able to justify everything they charge customers. And so the Railroad Commission has the ultimate jurisdiction of the rates and services. You as the city council will always have the original jurisdiction unless you decide to give them a pass. But you will be able to review, accept or deny those rates at the city level. So, if that's a stipulation that you want to, negotiate that rate, of course, that's, you have that right within your citizens of your community. Of course, those will only be applied to the citizens within the city of Rockport, okay? Because the Railroad Commission will have jurisdiction in the environs or outside of the community.
Anyone else? One minor opportunity for clarification. The option that we're moving forward to the voters is to essentially give us the option to sell. It's not obligating us to sell. So if we bid it, we don't like what we get back in return, we can just keep moving forward with what we're doing. Is that correct?
Reject all the bids.
In this fact sheet, is this the proposed kind of release that we would be able to utilize to talk through the sale?
No, that is just strictly the facts from Mr. Pena.
Okay.
Our official position will be more neutral than that.
Okay, that was going to be my recommendation.
Right. Anyone else?
Can I make a comment? Can everyone hear me?
Barely.
Barely? Okay. Anyone better? Can you guys hear me better?
Try
No?
again, see if we can hear you better.
Can you hear me better?
I think it'll be okay.
Trying to move around. Can you guys hear me better? It's okay. I'll send my question in.
We hear you a lot better right now. Go ahead.
I was just gonna make a comment. I've had a lot of citizens just have a concern about if the cost is going to be a lot different for them and not seeing the difference. Are we able to get a comparison on other cities that are around here that maybe did a sell that changed pricing so they know maybe what could be the outcome if we did sell the gas company before making that decision?
We certainly can get the information from other communities that have that information, the rates. Yeah, but again, just understand that every community is different in the sense of the O&M cost and all these other things that are associated. So I will tell you that the vast majority of the communities that have gone to that next step have negotiated with the existing, with the potential buyer to come with a reasonable and fair rate. Because again, they're making an investment to come in here to purchase the utility and immediately have to comply with all these regulations. So they're impacted pretty fast. And so there's just a cost associated with that. So a lot of them have gone ahead and accepted the current rate, which is most of the time in line with what should be charged. Because again, the Railroad Commission is the ultimate approver of these rates for fair and just to all the customers across the whole state. And so, but we can make comparisons to the other gas companies if that's the case. A lot of times what we did actually in the bid proposal, we got to that point, is that part of the bid proposal is for them to show us some comparisons of those rates. So that way it made it for you to be educated about what that potential company was going to be proposing. Yeah. Correct. So
that is mandated, and there was a certain percentage that we had to do every year.
Yes,
Weren't we already looking at, we were gonna have to do some rate increases to be able to cover the replacement?
Looking at our last audit and the new regulations, we're gonna have to make probably a significant investment in the system as well, which would require some rate increases.
Question? If not, we'll close the public hearing. It is 7:11. We will go to item number 16 on the agenda. Deliberate and act on first reading of an ordinance amending Article 4 of the City of Rockport zoning ordinance number 1027 by changing the zoning and land located at 102 St. Francis Circle, also known as Lot 2, Block 1, Damasco subdivision, 3.445 acres, City of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, from R1 First Single Family Dwelling District to B1 General Business District to allow the use of monitored outside parking, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Yes, ma'am, Mr. Teacher.
Good evening, Mary Dietrich, planner, City of Rockport. So this property is about 3.5 acres. It has about 100 feet frontage on the bypass. It was replatted once they bought it. They, them and Mr. Donnie here got together and they split it up. Donnie got a little bit of that and he got frontage on the highway. If future land use map shows commercial use. It is right there by the neighborhood. Our city limits actually stops there on St. Francis. So the property is in our city limits, but the residential behind it is not. I don't know that that matters. I just thought you should know. And that's all the facts I can think of. Any questions?
So why it's zoned R1 at this particular time?
Well, because when it's annexed, it automatically is zoned R1, and they need to come in and get it rezoned to what their use is, much like all the properties on Market Street had to do. I don't know that it was ever actually zoned anything because the county doesn't do zoning, but I believe it possibly could have been used as commercial use in the past. I have no idea. Yes,
On how it is zoned when it's annexed?
yes, automatically goes to R1.
Is the proposed use conducive with the master plan?
Yes.
Annexed, what year was it?
That was part of the 2017, I believe.
Okay. Other questions?
I do, Mayor.
Yes.
My ward, I get to speak. Woo! I've drove by this property a couple of three different times, making sure I understood exactly the lay of the land. And, I mean, first of all, by getting the frontage on the bypass, that helps take the traffic off of Griffin, St. Francis, and everything else. And second, you know, just like Carrie said, master plan says it's commercial. I see no problem with this. I think that the owners have a great plan for making it continue to look nice and not be an eyesore. And I'm all for this. This is a good use of this piece of property, especially because of its odd shape.
Well, and on that note, and their concerns about lighting, I don't blame them, I totally get that, but the city does have an ordinance requiring that the lighting cannot encroach into the residential properties, and that will be watched very carefully when they do develop.
Reminder to council, the request tonight is just to rezone the property, to get it zoned properly for the request that the owner is bringing forward. The request still has to go through the development process, and as Councilmember Jackson indicated, if they are seeking entrance and exit off of Highway 35, they need to get TxDOT permission to do that. And there are other stipulations for developing that property, depending on, again, if they're coming in with the project that they're proposing with the monitored parking, they still have to come in and submit different things to the Building and Development Department for approval for their request. But tonight, we're just talking about zoning.
Can we go over P&Z's recommendation,
Yes.
please?
Ms. Kim is here, if you want to speak, or I can.
Sure.
Oh. So I could go over P&Z's recommendation.
Kim Hesley, member of Planning and Zoning Commission. We had a split vote on this. I don't remember exactly what it was, and we recommended denial on this. I think the concern on that was the zoning use, the B1, not necessarily the immediately contemplated improvements or use, but the actual zoning and land use down the road because of it being part of that neighborhood. So.
4-1 vote?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry,
It
go ahead. Rach.
was
No,
4-1 to deny.
4-1 to deny
Deny,
the rezone.
Yeah.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, from what I'm hearing, P&Z is supposed to follow the comprehensive plan like the rest of us is denying that the comprehensive plan is correct in this case.
I don't know that they're denying that it's correct.
Well, they're not going with it.
Well, that's true. The recommendation for denial is not in line with the master plan comprehensive land use map.
Mhm.
They had other reasons, I suppose.
I was at the meeting on that.
Oh, that's right, you were.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A question, so I like the fact that it has the frontage on the highway. For me, that is compelling argument towards commercial development. The access onto 35, and I know Chief Stevens stepped out, that's a challenging area, but I know TxDOT's planning on an overpass at Corpus Christi. Mike or anybody, do y'all have any idea how far out that?
Bobby Alvin talked to them, and they're not opposed to putting the overpass all the way across the river. Once they get to that planning, they will talk to us and have a crossover still there at the river, but have the bridge go all the way past the river.
Right. So if the traffic coming out of this, and to your property as well, goes onto a frontage road, that's a much safer, for everyone, and additional commercial growth on a frontage is less concerning to me. For me, you know, I want to support Planning and Zoning Commission and the work that they're doing. So Carrie, can you speak to us, what is the next step? So if we were to not approve tonight's first zoning, what would be the recourse for the landowner?
To ask for a conditional use permit. They could not ask for another rezone, because once it's denied, you can't ask for another B1.
I'm sorry, I should have given you all these questions ahead of time.
That's okay.
What is the limitation in a B1? At that point, if we rezone to B1 and the landowner decides to sell, or a few years from now changes their mind about what they want to have there, are there any limitations other than, obviously they would have to go through development, but is there any limitations on a B1 for what they could put there?
Well, just what's allowed in B1, and there's quite a bit. I mean, B1 is the general business district, and that's where you'll find your convenience stores, your gas stations, your businesses, all sorts of businesses, retail, but anything that a property owner wants to do has to come through the development phase. And consideration is always taken into account for residentially, next door to residential. There are certain requirements that the commercial business has to do to not impede on the residential's peace and quality of life, and we follow that pretty strictly.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
I have
What are the,
Oh, I think Andrea tried to say something.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Andrea.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to make a couple comments to this. To my understanding, so this was annexed, correct?
Correct.
So this was a commercial property back in 2017. So to me, I just feel like if this was already a commercial property that was annexed to residential, I don't feel comfortable taking that opportunity away if that's already in the future land use map and it was already annexed, to take away that when they originally bought that property. That's just my comments on that, just originally there. I feel like this might be a situation where the neighbors can talk to each other. I feel like the owners are open to talk to them and try to figure out a way to work together. So that's just the feeling I'm getting. If we can just have a conversation, maybe there might be a better way of handling this than just denying this altogether and having to go through a whole another P&Z and all that stuff. And again, I want to support the P&Z, but this is a future land use map and this is commercial property. So we have to somewhat take that in consideration as well to everything else. I just wanted to make those statements before everything else. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Nope. Carrie, you alluded to, future development would have to comply with, you know, the neighborhood, I guess, essentially. What would our opportunity to be if the development didn't necessarily fit the neighborhood? What could we do after we grant the rezoning? Or if a rezone was granted to B1?
Doesn't fit the neighborhood.
What opportunities do we have to make sure that the development or the project would fit?
That's why we have the pre-development meetings, to go over what they intend to do and explain to them what they are allowed to do and how being next to residential affects what they can and can't do. You don't want to see a 3-story hotel right in front of your house.
Certainly.
But that would be a different zoning. They'd have to come back and rezone.
But B1's pretty loose as to what we could put there.
Yes.
So with it being adjoining R1 on
two sides. Do we have the ability to say that's not the best fit for
We
that
do.
property?
We do, and that happens in the pre-development meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we have the ability at this point to be conditional? In other words, I'm concerned about business traffic getting on the residential side street. If it's going out to the bypass and that can be worked out with TxDOT, I have less concerns. But if they're gonna put a drive and have their business traffic come right out in front of the residential houses.
No, that's the reason we don't, if they've got highway frontage, the only exit or entrance they could have off the residential is for their own personal vehicle use, or an emergency exit if there were a fire and they couldn't get to the exit on the highway. But that would be closed with the code or something. No, that's
Okay, so we
not
wouldn't have to
acceptable.
put a condition, it's gonna already
Yes.
exist with this rezoning if it was passed.
Correct.
Okay.
We have had, over the last 3 years, a lot of work done on comprehensive plan for the city, and it was reworked over and over again. And people went through all sorts of jumping through hoops trying to get something set down that would be in the best interest of the city in the future. Most of the property along Highway 35, on the frontage to 35, is commercial. The fact that we require when something is annexed into the city that it come in as R1 simply says that's the most restrictive zoning that you can have. That if that is what it is, you can't put much there, or one person or one family house. So we make it very restrictive, but at the point that there is a use for that property, the people come in and say, here's what I think we should do in order to make it compatible with other things out there. We don't want to give problems to the people behind us and so forth. But there was a lot of work done on this project, and so we sat down and came up with a recommended use for all the properties.
Correct.
And having done that, I think that the city has said and the council has said that we would try to go by those things and try to set down what we believe are the best uses for property for the benefit of the city and for the area where they live. It's not that nobody cares about the people back off of the highway, but we still have got a reasonable use for property that if you go out into that area, it's mostly commercial. And so a property owner is wanting to have something done with that property, and my feeling is that we have done a lot of work to get to a point like this, and I think that is due some consideration when we are dealing with an issue like this. I see the people saying we're going to try to be compatible with the people out there. We don't want it to be ugly. We're going to leave the trees. We're going to leave brush. We're going to leave all sorts of things. But the city has gone to a lot of extent trying to see that those areas are properly used in the future after they become part of the city. And that, I think, is a big consideration for us.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? I will call for a vote or for a motion if I can get one.
I make the motion to approve agenda item 16 is presented.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Do I have a second?
Andrew
Andrew.
seconds. Sir.
Is that a second? I couldn't see it. Okay. I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion or debate? And I will call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Proposition passes. Next item is number 17, deliberate and act on first reading of an ordinance amending Article 4 of the City of Rockport zoning ordinance number 1027 by changing the zoning of land located at 1806 Highway 35 North, also known as Villa Del Palmas Unit A, B, C, and D, City of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, to R6 Hotel Motel District to allow the use of short-term rentals currently zoned R5 is second multifamily dwelling district, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for severability and providing for an effective date. Yes,
Good
ma'am.
evening, Carrie Dietrich, Community Planner, City of Rockport. This property is the old Villa Del Palmas apartments. Anyone who's lived there for any time remembers those. I swam in that pool as a teenager, so been a while, but yes. And he is correct. The two entrances that now go out onto
Percival.
yes, were not original. When Harvey came through and it blew down fences, the folks that were working on it just started going in and out that way as a construction entrance exit, and they may have laid some asphalt, I don't know, but those are not original entrances and exits. We have discussed with Mr. Glom about, if need be, having an emergency exit, you know, for people to get out if they need to, but he has not submitted his plans yet on how he intends to approach that. There will still be their entrances off the highway for the tenants to get in. And he's asking for the R6 so that he can do some of the units as short-term rentals. Right now it's R5, which is apartments and is not used for short-term. That's a long-term rental zoning.
Two questions real quick. Carrie, on the Percival, I've heard from some residents in Little Bay Shores, and that is one of their concerns is coming in and out of on Percival. And then I think what was alluded to in the P&Z meeting was boat, trailer storage, parking, which I get. Currently in the parking area, it's going to be difficult to park a boat trailer if we have some short-term rentals or even long-term rentals. I guess my only concern with going to the R6 to allow the short-term rental usage right now is I would love to wait to see our short-term rental ordinance before we allowed another short-term rental.
Well, once he's R6, it's like a hotel motel.
Exactly.
The ordinance wouldn't apply.
But if he's going to try to do short-term rentals in this unit, then I would love to see our short-term rental ordinance come first to see if we can how that development would comply with that ordinance.
Well, we did put in the ordinance that places like that, apartments, Pearl Point, all of those types of long-term apartment leases cannot have short-term rentals. I think you'd be chasing a lot of issues in that way, which is why he's gone to R6 or trying to go to R6 so that he can use it for short-term. And of course, they're apartments, so it wouldn't be like a hotel other than the length of stays. Short-term is less than 30 days.
If the zoning goes to R6, does the occupancy have to meet hotel motel occupancy codes?
Well, it's still occupancy, regardless of whether it's a hotel or there's minimum or less square footage required in a motel or a hotel per room. Whereas in apartments, you're required to meet the IBC living. Excuse me, and of course they already do. But the occupancy would still remain 2 per bedroom and only, I think, 2 extra after that. The same as it would if it were long-term. And if he's going to allow them to bring their boat and their trailer and park it, then he has to provide that parking lot. They cannot park on the easement on Percival. And
yeah,
I don't know that he's going to allow that, but.
But that's things that all wash out.
Exactly, in the development. Yes, ma'am.
All right, other questions?
So this property, when it was, is it fully rehabbed post Harvey?
2 of the buildings are, and they're working on the other 2.
So were those buildings brought into current fire code?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so is there a different fire code for if it was a new development, hotel, motel, sprinkling, things like that?
No, it's the same.
It would be the same, okay.
They had to come to all the current codes. And I believe in the center, it's now going to be a swimming pool. I haven't gotten the plans, but that's the talk. Swimming pool and a sitting area in the middle between the buildings.
I want to make sure I understand too, the exits on the back side back there that were not originally with the apartment complex.
Correct.
Would they be open to Percival Street?
Not if I have my way.
Well,
so he can
again,
have an emergency exit.
I can remember people on Percival Street when some of that damage had happened and there was cars tried to go through there and they were really unhappy with it. And this has happened over a long time.
Yes.
But that was an issue with the people that lived back there at the time. And I would be interested in knowing that that wouldn't be open. There wouldn't be cars going in and out on that backside back there. But that would be my concern and something we'd have to deal with at the time that the work's done. Anyone else got a question? If not, I will call for motion.
I make a motion to approve agenda item 17 as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? I'll second the motion. I have a motion and a second. Any further debate or question? If not, I'll call for a vote. Ward 1?
Aye.
Ward 2?
Aye.
Ward 3?
No.
Ward 4?
I'm gonna say no.
Mayor, aye. Motion passes. Number 18, item number 18, deliberate and act on first reading of an ordinance amending ordinance number 1894 by replacing and appointing new alternate judge, providing for severability, finding and determining that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law and establishing an effective date. Teresa.
This is probably the first time this has ever happened in my history of being a city secretary.
I'm sorry. Let me back up then. So this is probably the first time in my history, 25 years of being a city secretary, that this has happened. We contract with the Aransas County Elections Administrator to conduct our elections, and he seeks the election judges and alternate judges and clerks, and they are put in our agreement, resolution ordinances that the city council approves. If the council ever has an issue with that, then we go back to the drawing board, which that has never happened. Kevin was notified recently of one of the alternate judges that has had something come up and cannot preside as the alternate judge, and so he has found a replacement, and this is what this ordinance is. It's just naming the replacement, amending the ordinance, just naming the replacement.
Okay. Any questions?
I move to approve item
18 is presented.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or debate? Call for a vote. Ward 1?
Aye.
Ward 2?
Aye.
Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4?
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Motion passes. All right. Number 19, deliberate and act on a resolution of the City of Rockport, Texas, approving and adopting the City of Rockport grant-related financial management policies and procedures, including steps to perform a grant-related independent cost analysis and private negotiations for competitive procurement guidelines.
Mayor and council, this is a little bit different for us. The impetus for this is some findings on one of our grant applications, and then us not having a finance director. We have put in some financial guidelines. We have to have council adopted financial guidelines to continue forward with this grant. I have made the guidelines for the grant for the purpose of the grant only, because I am not comfortable adopting them as our citywide guidelines at this point without a finance director. We have procedures and policies, but they are not council adopted. And I think a new finance director needs to be given the ability to rewrite all of them and us have a good comprehensive set, which at that time we would submit to the GLO. Hopefully they're in compliance. I mean, we would obviously make them that way. This set, though, I have restricted down specific to the grant for those reasons.
Okay. Questions?
Does this,
In any way affect our ability to get grants right now, to apply for grant funding on anything?
No, it's a requirement for GLO and CDBG, so it should bolster those and eliminate some of those findings in the future. Of course, as we go forward, they'll be replaced with either something similar or something that would comply when we're ready to do an entire citywide update. But at this point, this will help us out.
Any further questions?
I read through them. I mean, I do a lot of grant management and have for a long time. You know, the findings are relatively common with these type federal programs. 2 CFR 200, when that kind of came down, it happened at a time that we were going through, right before Harvey. So a lot of communities around here, I don't want to say struggled, but they've had to play catch up to the more stringent federal procurement. And so I didn't see anything that was overly alarming, and I think the corrective actions and the policy they presented makes sense. So looking forward to future revision of any other standing policies when you get a director in. But.
Any other questions? If not, I will ask for a motion to approve the resolution.
Sorry, Mayor. I move to approve item 19 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions? If not, I'll call for a vote. Ward 1?
Aye.
Ward 2?
Aye.
Ward 3?
Aye.
Did you say Ward 4?
Are we gone?
Aye. I can't.
Thank
guys-
you. Mayor,
Sorry, you
aye.
close up.
Motion passes unanimously. Item number 20. This is a postponed item. It's postponed from February 14th, 2023. Deliberate and act on a possible approval of amendment to the existing Republic Services contract.
Mayor and Council, before we get into the renewal of the contract, Mike Reeves with Republic is here to give you a short presentation on the services that they've been providing us for the past 5 years. More? We try to be.
Reeves, Public Services. I'm the Municipal Services Manager for South Texas. Mayor, Council, staff, good evening. Hope everyone had a nice, memorable Easter. I know we did. Glad to be here. Our drivers are especially excited the day after a holiday. So, I have 2 things for you tonight, if I may. Number one is I wanted to kind of summarize and review our current services and how we've been your environmental services partner for all these years, and refresh for maybe as a community perspective what we've done as a company locally here in Rockport and what we want to continue to do. And then on that same note, I want to thank y'all for making a decision back in February to give us an opportunity to continue providing and re-earning the service we provide your community for future years ahead. So thank you for that, okay? There are a lot of companies out there that want Rockport or to be considered to handle Rockport or be considered a provider. And you know what? This is a really desirable location for many reasons. But I will tell you this though, when you look at this service, solid waste and recycling, it is a services, correct? And we are an extension of your staff services. So we consider ourselves a partner with your city as we do many others. So the difference between a partnership and being a contracted service obviously is the partnership should always be communicating back and forth as to what's important to each side, correct? There needs to be a buy-in and a value there. The other thing is we have to continue to listen to the needs of your constituents and staff. And also we have to re-earn that each time and not take it for granted. So I wanted to let all of you know that we never take for granted our partnerships when we do earn them in an attempt to re-earn them. So thank you for that. So what's new with Republic Services on our end? Well, just a couple of boring reminders, but it may be important. Did all of you know that right now as we speak, a week ago, we started picking up bagged leaf collection for your residents? If you've forgotten that, it's going on as we speak. We're in week 2. Everybody in town will have this collection for 4 weeks in 2 months out of the year. So we're in week 2. Wednesday, we do half the town. Saturday, we do the other half the town. So that will continue for 2 more weeks after this week. So if anyone's forgotten about it, look on the map, see which zone you're in, and make sure this Saturday, if it's this half, that you put those bags out there and take advantage of that collection. I will say that Rockport is the only city out of 24 that I have that we still offer that service to. That was in your prior council, and some of you were here when you negotiated that. We have to use a special truck and a team to do that collection, but we're happy to do it. Please tell your residents not to use contractors' bags. Be nice to our staff. 35-gallon bags or smaller is what's in the paper, but you know, we use judgment on that. So you've seen what I'm talking about, some of you. There can be mountains of leaves out there. I get it. But just remind everyone, please, okay? Also, if you're curious to know, I thought at least once a year moving forward, I can come and give an update on your tonnages that are produced by your constituents if you find that interesting. So a question's been asked to me a few years in a row, Mike, do our people really recycle? I've seen some neighbors do it, but do they really do it? Well, if you're curious, and has recycling lost muster? Is it about the trash only? Well, here's some facts for you. I pulled tonnages this morning for the last 3 years for Rockport, residential, recycling. In 2020, our team collected 522 tons of recycling from your residents. And keep in mind, does recycling usually weigh as much as trash? It's much lighter, okay? So that is a lot. So did it go down in the next year? 2021, it jumped up to 564 tons. Okay, so it increased. Now, we'll say last year in 2022, it dropped a little bit to 500, a little over 500 tons. But think about that. What was unique in last year? We had this big freeze in February, March, remember? The Texas record freeze. What do you think most folks were interested in doing at that time? Offloading brush, debris, small branches, plants, etc., and just normal garbage. So trends can change on that. But what I wanted to point out was you still have a group of folks that want to recycle. So it is important to you. And if any other company comes in and says that they could offer that to your people, I would challenge that. Because we have the only processing center here in Corpus Christi in our Coastal Bend area. And they're not taking it to us. So where's it going? So just keep that in mind if that's important to you. All right. We've expanded our services. For those that aren't aware, we actually purchased US Ecology last year, if you're familiar with that company. What does that do for you and your constituents? I've got a 55-minute PowerPoint presentation, which I'm going to do in 5, okay, if I can. And I promise you want me to too, so we'll go through as quickly as possible. But what's different with our company? So US Ecology brings on some hazardous waste services that could be provided, emergency hazard services, so we can stabilize equipment, resources, and so forth in the event of an act of God or storm. We don't have those around these areas. We don't want them, but when they do happen, we're there. Okay, we can stabilize equipment, people, and resources there. We have certain waste streams that we did not normally handle or offer. With this acquisition, we do now. We can add those services. In certain cities where you might have a homeless encampment situation, if that exists, that's not a very pleasant situation to send a city crew or someone else to go take care of that and clean up medical waste and things of that nature. Our sister branch can do that. You can actually contract with them. We can build it into your contract and we can look at some pricing for that. I had a city call me yesterday after this presentation. They're interested. Their team's done. So it's not a pleasant situation, but if it's needed, we can definitely look at that, all right? Your wastewater, public works, we can look at sampling on certain chemicals and waste streams. So if you need that, we have that available as well. So keep in mind. One last example, sewer vac services. I understand the city bought a truck recently or last year, I believe, for that type of service. If, for example, equipment goes down, you need to jet some lines, you need to pull from a lift station, US Ecology has that equipment and that service personnel. So if you need to contract with us for that type of service in an emergency, short-term basis, or just subcontract, let us know. We can offer that to you, okay? Next slide, please. Okay, so looking at sustainability, Primarily on the West Coast, our company obviously is getting into electronic vehicles for the trucks, the garbage trucks and recycling trucks. Believe it or not, they have stricter carbon footprints over there. Sometimes it's mandatory in certain counties. So we've had to make that change to electrify our fleet. Will that hit Texas? Probably not for a long time. There's various reasons for that, okay? But we are looking at that in certain areas of the country. And it is, oddly enough, the trucks you would think would be lighter, but they're heavier. So keep in mind it's the batteries. They can run up to 90 miles on a full charge, do 1,200 lifts, and make it back to the local base with about 30% left, from my understanding. So the technology is there. It is impressive. And the drivers, more importantly, said the AC kicks really cool. That was my concern for them. Next slide, please. Okay, so we talked about U.S. ecology. Next slide, please. We just touched on the EV. There's a picture of one of the trucks. Next. Next. Okay, renewable biogas. We have so many landfills across the nation. Obviously, we can do good things with those and make renewable energy, and we are adding that to our menu, and we're partnering with some other companies that also want us to help draw natural gas and help the environment and provide some energy out there. Next slide. Okay, this is kind of cool. So the recycling we collect today, we normally take it to our center in Corpus for our area, correct? It gets separated into the correct family. It gets baled. We contact companies for sellable markets. 18-wheelers show up. They pick up the product. They take it to a mill or a manufacturing, and the process begins again. Well, in 4 areas in the U.S., we are developing our first ever polymer center. It's going to be in Vegas. Please don't ask me about taking a tour, okay, at this time. So we're going to internalize the plastics, for example, and we can actually take, Ms. Schreiner looked at me, she was like, Mike, no. There will be one in Houston. Would you rather go there in the next spot? No, no. So going back to the polymer plant, what's neat about this is we can actually take the plastic, we can melt it down, we can make it into a polymer flake form, and we can actually sell that to companies ourselves now. So we can internalize that process. That can keep our costs down too if you have recycling programs like you do in your city for the plastics commodity. So 4 locations over the next 2 to 3 years, Vegas, Houston, Center, and then East Coast, okay? So more to come on that. We're excited about it. Next. Okay, so last piece of this update is we have several companies that you can see on this slide that are partners with us on buying those recycling products back and putting them into use. You can see who some of the players are. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, last piece on this one. So giving back to the communities, we talked about a local level. So obviously we do this at a national level. We have a national neighborhood program that if you weren't aware of it, I encourage you to look on our website and you can see all this information. But we volunteer in local communities, obviously. We donate roll-offs and services for different events, and we've done that in Rockport as well for several of your festivities. Our idea is to partner more with the city now to where Crawfish Festival, Sea Fair, Wine Festival, instead of them calling me, they can work with through you and through our staff here where we can work on these services together. We provide the containers for them. We're present. But I want the city to get credit for what y'all do to help out the locals in the communities and the different events and organizations. So it is a partnership. But looking at the national level, anybody who contacts you in your area and they're a not-for-profit or a charity group, tell them about this website for us. Because they can go on there, if they're in the business of requesting funding and donations, monetary, there's a link on the site they can go to. They can fill out an application. And the person that tells the best story in each of our respective areas will win the prize from Republic. We've donated millions of dollars every year. This program was just refreshed this year, and so you may be the one to get that. That group could be the one to get those funds. And if you don't get it on the first round, your application's stored, change the story up, re-ask again the next year. They're going to spread those funds around to all the different communities, okay? In essence, yeah. Okay, so good information there. I think we're done with this presentation, Kimberly, thank you. Can we go to the video? I'm going to show you all video. Earth Day, as you probably know, is April 22nd on Saturday this month, so a lot of neat things going on across the board, but I wanted to show you a video that our company put together that kind of summarizes how we feel about sustainability in Earth Day. We're going to try this. While we're pulling up, are there any questions that you have for me about the amendment that's ahead of you and the negotiation between Ms. Schroner and what each of you felt were important? No? Okay.
Just ask
If we could get a copy of that PowerPoint presentation?
Absolutely.
Yeah, please.
Yes, ma'am.
As an environmental services company, Republic Services takes its commitment to the planet seriously. As a leader in our industry, we have big responsibilities, like leading the way on stewardship, accountability, and preserving the environment. Most of all, we are dedicated to delivering sustainable solutions for our customers, whether that's innovations in clean landfill technology, fleet and equipment efficiency, renewable energy production, or advanced recycling and organics processes. In 2017, we established bold sustainability goals to reach by 2030, and we work toward and report on them each year in our annual sustainability report. Here's just a few of the goals we've set for ourselves. We want to recycle more materials back into their original form, a process called circularity. This is currently a challenge with plastics. Republic Services is opening the nation's first integrated recycling facility, the Polymer Center, so we can keep valuable materials like plastic in the circular economy for the long term. We're driving toward a low-carbon future. In 2020, we reduced our greenhouse gas emissions by 5% from the previous year, and our first electric-powered truck hit the road. We continue to reuse biogas. We currently have 75 landfill gas-to-energy projects with plans for even more. And today, roughly 3,300 of our trucks run on renewable natural gas. We're committed to the environment, and we're putting sustainability in action. Join us this Earth Day. Let's partner to create a more sustainable world.
I want to thank you all for your time. Appreciate everything. Any questions? Whatever I had on YouTube after that video.
Anyways, and I just appreciate the promptness to address his needs and really the flexibility. It was kind of a one-off. It didn't really fit, kind of our normal model. And Mike, you personally went out there and met with the owner of the property and worked with them. So just wanted to thank you. And homeowner, or the property owner, the commercial property owner, is very happy with the services.
Thank you for bringing that up. Appreciate that.
Mr. Reed, in the contract, I'd just like to say thank you for being able to keep the CPI at 4%, knowing that that's not what the market is nationally now with the CPI. I assume 8, 11, somewhere around there. So we are realizing a little bit of continued savings for the citizens. So thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for Republic for wanting to maintain the partnership here. So thank you.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed working with you for several years. It's good to see you again.
Yes, sir. You as well.
Any questions, further questions? If not, do I?
I move to approve item 20 as presented.
I have a motion.
Second. I have a motion second. Any further discussion or question?
Is that the correct way since it's postponed? Is that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Call for vote. Ward 1?
Aye.
Ward 2?
Aye.
Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4?
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great evening. Appreciate you. Okay.
All right, report from the city manager.
The only project report I have will be in executive session, so.
Very good. Any reports from council on things going on in your ward?
Why, yes, Mayor, I'd like to speak on behalf of Ward 1, if I may, please.
Please do.
This last weekend was hopping in the Arcade. Wow, I was talking with Luis Perone, and he said they had 535 visitors on Saturday at the Art Center. VFW sold out of hamburgers. The Railroad Depot had the most visitors they'd had in a very long time. They had live music and some artists doing, I'm really not sure what, because I was busy selling burgers. So, we got a lot of stuff going on in Ward 1. Ward 1 is also where the Aransas County Children's Coalition Workforce Daycare Center is. Happens to be right next to the VFW. Those kids are well taken care of. I can tell everybody that. They're happy, usually. We know how kids are. But Diane and her entire staff over there does a great job of actually providing some education and not just corralling. And there was one more thing I was supposed to talk about, and I don't remember what it is, so I'm going to go ahead and pass.
The last 2 weeks, I believe it was last Monday, several of us were able to attend the State of the State with Governor Abbott. I thought that was a good event. And then following that, I attended the Stormwater and Floodplain Management Advisory Committee. Those are my two activities for the period.
Oh, where do I begin? No, nothing to report. We're good.
Andrea?
I just have a couple things to report. I did attend the TDC, Tourist Development Council, for the chamber. I know I was not the last meeting, so I'm not sure if that was after or before that. That was a good informational workshop just to see where the funds are being spent for the chamber and just seeing what they're doing to promote our area. Second is I did attend the stormwater meeting as well virtually. In interest to my area, we had Texas Clean Coast. They are looking to do a project here, and two projects are both in my area and a couple in other areas, but to redirect the Tule Creek into Aransas Bay and also to expand the Tule Lake. So that's going to be something that people maybe wanted to keep an eye on, and they have thoughts or what could happen to help our drainage and infrastructure and also with cleaning our water. And then on top of that, I went to my HOA annual meeting, and I think the biggest thing that they came off with is traffic. So if you're going through the country club and you're cutting through corners, just maybe try to slow down, because it seems a lot of my residents are having a little concern with that. So I would appreciate that. Otherwise, the drainage project is almost complete. We're just cleaning it up, and we're going to be done here very shortly. So that's about it.
Right. Thank you. For my part, I was honored to get to speak to the Property Owners Association Country Club the other day, and we had a very good meeting. We found out things that were of concern to the people that live in that area and discussed those at some length. We were very happy to find out that they were very content with the work that had been done on the drainage issue we had out there, where we had water in so many houses, although there's still some things that they would like to see addressed at some point, and they will be when they can be. But we had a very good meeting. Like others, I was very happy and fortunate to be able to go to the governor's State of the State message, and I was impressed with the fact that I was able to learn why several friends of mine have recently in the last 2 years moved from California to Texas and are very happy here, and was advised that if Texas were an independent nation, we would have the 8th highest economy in the world, which is a good thing if you are from Texas. It makes me feel good about living here and having been born here, and most of my grandparents and great-grandparents too. So anyway, that was great. I don't have anything else. The City Council will hold an executive session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in section 551.071, consultations with attorneys seeking the advice of attorney about pending or contemplated litigation or a settlement offer, and on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar Association of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter, Concho Street and General Land Office, GLO drainage projects. Also, section 551.072, deliberations about real property to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. If deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governmental body in negotiations with a third person, consider the possible purchase of private property, or real property rather. Then section 551.074, personnel matters to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, to wit, city attorney. It is 8:03 and we are in executive session.
run.
Well, for those of us that actually come to council.
It's 9:05, we're back in regular session.
Motion to adjourn.
We're gone. So much is for that. Oh, hey, it's still 9:05. I said that when we started.
Sorry, I jumped the gun.